Hey, what is up, nerds, geeks, and collectors alike? Today we are taking a look at the Marvel Legends Spider-Man No Way Home 3-pack consisting of all live-action Spider-Man. And I'm pretty excited to review these figures because it's kind of weird that Hasbro made us wait an entire year after the film's release to get all three live-action Spider-Man together. So without further ado, let's get into it. Now starting off with our first Spider-Man, of course it's Toby Maguire. Now taking a closer look at the figure, I know a lot of people have been complaining of the CG render of his head being too wide, and I do see it reflecting here on the figure. From what I've gathered, I think that was because Toby Maguire has claustrophobia. That's why they had to use CGI for his mask, and they adapted it here on the figure. And as you can see, it is the classic Toby Maguire suit, the Sam Raimi suit, and I think Hasbro did a pretty good job capturing it in action figure form. And here we have at the back, as you can see, the silver on the webbing is inconsistent. There are some mishaps here and there are some missing paint here and there, and it is evident here on the head if we take a closer look at it. And yeah, it's what you can expect from a mass-produced figure from Hasbro. So as much as a bummer that is, it is expected. But that doesn't change the fact it does look pretty cool from a distance. Now moving on to Andrew Garfield, it does suffer from the same problem as Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man. The sculpt is nice, the paint is nice except for the webbing. And in Andrew's case, it's the black webbing. Again, some inconsistencies such as missing black paint or some bleeding or blemishes, but just very minor hiccups. Unless you are very nitpicky with your figures, it doesn't help that they come in windowless packaging. So you should expect that it's not going to be perfect, especially when it comes to the webbing. And one of the unique things here on Andrew is his web shooters are sculpted in. No paint, but still it's nice that they added that detail. Here on the other hand, again, the web shooters, it's a nice touch. I really like the fact that they included that. They could have easily skipped over it, but I'm pretty happy that they didn't. And moving on to our final Spider-Man, here we have Tom Holland. And the first thing I noticed is that they painted the webbing. And this one's more clean in terms of paint compared to the other two because it is sculpted in rather than raised out. But there are still some mishaps, there are still some bleeding, but they are all tolerable. And this figure is just a complete repaint. Let's bring in the previous Armadillo Wave integrated suit Spider-Man. And the first thing you notice here is that they have different types of the dark color. Well, the new one is blue, while the other one is smoky gray, if that is correct. And I don't see any changes with the sculpt. And here at the back, again, the same differences, the webbing and the blue from the smoky gray. And I did notice that they painted the other side of the newer Spider-Man here on the web shooter, and the older one, it's just the front and not the back. Now the front and the back are painted on the new one. And apart from that, the spider logo does pop better on the new one. Now moving on to the accessories, all three Spider-Man comes with 3 sets of hands. Toby has the wall crawling hands, Tom has the flipping hands, and Andrew has the fisted hands. And all of them have their own sets. And the last accessory they have is this unique web. I think we saw it with Amazing Fantasy Spider-Man. And apart from him, I can't remember any other Spider-Man figure that had this accessory. I think Japanese Spider-Man might have had this. I'm not sure, I may be wrong. Another thing that caught me off guard with this set is the left hand of Andrew Garfield. I really thought that all of these were supposed to be wall crawling hands, and I was afraid that I may have gotten a defect. But upon researching the figures, this is actually how it's supposed to be. So I'm kind of relieved, at the same time confused as to what was Hasbro aiming with this particular piece. What do they want us to do with it? Apart from grabbing the web, that's all I can think of. But if they wanted to do that, they should have just given us a grabby hand. So yeah, still weird, but let's use it in order to show you guys how to remove and replace a Marvel Legends hand, assuming that you guys don't know how to do that, which I doubt. And that's how you do it. That applies to all three figures. Well, actually, that applies to all Marvel Legends figures. So there you have it. Now moving on to articulation, Toby and Andrew share the same mold, but they have different body builds. So starting off with Toby right here, his head can look up and look down that far. He can do a complete 360. His hands can do a complete 360 as well, can go up that far. He has a butterfly joint. He has a bicep swivel, double jointed elbows which are very tight, or because they're new and out of packaging. Their wrist swivel and can go in and out. And for the torso, he does have an upper torso swivel that's on a ratchet joint, so it's kind of scary to move it. He can ab that far and arc that far. His feet can kick up, but he does have that drop down thigh joint, and his feet can kick back because of his spider booty. And here he does have an upper thigh swivel, double jointed knees, and again very tight. He does not have any articulation, boot articulation. He can move his feet therefore up and down, and then a pivot. Now with Andrew, aforementioned, they share the same mold, just different build. He can look up and down that far. He can do a 360. His shoulders can go up that far, can do a 360, has a butterfly joint. His bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, and his wrist can rotate and out and in. Again, the same with the torso, ratchet joint, scary again. He can ab that far and arc that far. And with the feet, he can kick a decent amount right there. Again, it's on this drop down joint, and his back kick is being restricted by his spider booty. Upper thigh swivel, again, double jointed knees, again very tight for now. No articulation on the boot. His feet can go up, down, and pivot. And with Tom Holland Spider-Man, it's the same sculpt as before, so there's no change whatsoever with the range of motion. For those who do not know, he can look up that far and then look down that far. His head can do a 360. And moving on to his arms can go up that far out, can do a 360 right there. He has a butterfly joint, which is very tight. And there you have it, bicep swivel, double jointed elbows, which are very tight. And moving it back here, he has a wrist rotation as well as an in and out. And for the torso, he does have this ab crunch, and he can arc that far out. He has a waist swivel. He can kick that far up and then kick almost, actually not at all, because of his spider booty. And I don't think he has the drop down thighs. And he has a upper thigh swivel and a double jointed knee, again very tight. And then He can move his feet that far up, down, and of course a super pivot, but let's not try our luck here. For scale, let's bring out the measuring tape. As you can see, Toby stands a little above 6 inches, while Tom stands just a little below 6 inches, while Andrew stands a little above 6 inches, same as Toby, but as you can see, he is just a smidge taller than Toby. So to summarize my thoughts with these figures, the sculpt is nice, the paint is nice, but you are not getting a perfect set of figures because of the webbing. That's the major issue with this set. The webbing are inconsistent, and I can see that Hasbro is struggling in terms of applying paint on webbing that has been sculpted to be raised up, such as Toby and Andrew. But taking a look at the figures as is, just like this, they do look great. You can really see the problems with the paint apps in terms of the webbing if you really squint at the figures. Apart from that, I wish they included grabby hands. Well, it is a miracle that we got wall-crawling hands because that is an essential part of Spider-Man, which Hasbro has not been including in recent years. Just up until recently, we've been getting it from premium sets. And my final nitpick with this set is the head sculpt of Toby. We all know why. It's disproportionate in some way, but that's not entirely Hasbro's fault because that's how he appeared in the movie and that's how they CGI'd his mask on him. But that's where my complaints end. If you ask me if you should get this figure, I would still recommend it if you are a Spider-Man fan because of the updated figures of Toby and Andrew. And even though I never got the previous versions, I could still say that these guys are an upgrade. This is also a chance for those who've been wanting an Andrew and a Toby figure without paying those ridiculous aftermarket prices. And in terms of Tom Holland, I think this one is more accurate, and even though it's just paint that they updated on this figure, it does make the figure pop. So that's about it. Till next time, see ya.